Hello, 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 everyone. Hi, this is UT, and I am back today with our React course. It seems like it was going like really well yesterday, and most of you enjoyed it, received some DMs about it. So, thank you so much for everyone who learned something new yesterday. And today we are going to continue on that. So, uh, let's wait for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, let everyone join in, and then we'll continue. So if you have been absent yesterday, okay, if you were absent yesterday, then let me just give you a quick overview of what we had been doing. So we are actually we are building a job board website. Okay, what it means is we are learning React, we are learning Tailwind CSS, the one that I have opened in front of me. And along with that, we are learning how do you do styling, we are playing with Tailwind, just learning some bits and pieces about JavaScript along the way, learning about React along the way. These are the things that we are doing. So, yesterday in part one, we made a header and a footer. So, that was our achievement from yesterday. And today we are going to continue on that. And now, today, my focus is to build cards. Okay, the cards that I keep talking about. And I'm going to build that one. Along with that, I'm also going to get started with the table. Now, if the time permits, we would be able to complete it maybe today, or maybe in this session more like. But if it does not, I'm going to come live again in the evening for me. I think like the times, because of time zones, I'm not sure, but I am going to be live again today at around, let me just quickly give you the time zones. Yep. So the time zone is, I will be back again today at 9 p.m. UK time. Okay. 9 p.m. UK time, which is around a lot. It's GMT 9 p.m. and 1 p.m. in PST and 2:30 a.m. in IST. So I think it's going to be pretty late in IST. But as always, the sessions are recorded, they would be on YouTube. So feel free to just watch it from YouTube and complete this project. Yeah, this is what I'm aiming for, completion of the project. That is very important for me. And I hope that is important to you too, because you are going to learn a lot from this project. Now, we have been waiting for quite some time. I think most of the folks have joined us. So, CST, so would it be possible to quickly convert GMT? So, GMT 9 p.m. Could you please quickly convert to CST? GMT 9 p.m. to CST should be around 4 p.m., I think. Yeah, it's 4 p.m. in Central Time. Yep, 4 p.m. Central Time. So yeah, with that, let's get started. Now, I'll also share a few links in the chat right now. The first link is going to be the registration and check-in. If you have not done the registration or you have not checked in, you can do this here. Uh, I think, okay, I think I should send one link at a time. That would be better. So this is first the registration and the check-in link. Okay, that goes in, and this is the registration and check-in link. Please make sure that you check in. It's a very long link. I'm just putting it up there so that you know this is what I sent. So registration and check-in, this will allow you to check in for today's session, and hopefully you all have done that. If you have not, I am going to keep it up for maybe 10 more seconds. It's in the chat, so you should be able to just click on it, go there, and check in. Number two is code from the part one. Now, code from the part one is, yep, thank you. Next session 9 p.m. GMT, 2:30 a.m. IST. Uh, converted for, it's like 4 p.m. CST, and just convert it for the time zone that you are in, please. Now, the next, so I am going to hide this registration, and this is the next one, the code from part one. Now, this is important. Why? Because if you joined me yesterday and you have been following along, you did not have any errors. Congratulations. That is great. But if you had errors, you are stuck at some point, you lost some pieces of code, you can open this link. Once you open that link, let me tell you what you have to do. So if you can see my screen, which I'm sure should be pretty visible right now, yep, there should be a button to fork this. Okay, click on the fork, and it is going to ask you the title, some description. There would be again a button which would say, okay, just make a fork or something like that. A call to action button, remember from yesterday, a call to action button. So just fork this and you will have the exact code that I had towards the end of yesterday's session. So, with that in mind, please ensure that you have forked everything and you have the exact same code if and only if you missed something yesterday. If you have been following along and you have been doing great doing that, so hats off. And thank you so much for following along. And thank you so much that you have the exact code that I have. Or maybe you made some quirky changes that I'd love to see. So, yep. Now that we have sorted it out, we have settled it, and everyone has the code, let's begin. I'm going to hide this and I'm going to go to my Ripple. So let me just close this quickly and go to Ripple. And I should see my ripples here on the bottom. This is what I'm opening. Let's hope it works. Please do. And yeah, it works perfect. Remember, there is this button where clicks on clicking it opens a new tab. Let's do that. And this is what we had yesterday. Now, while I was reflecting over it, I realized my design skills here are kind of bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just refactor this, of course. I'm going to refactor it. I'm going to change some colors and everything. But I'm going to do that after we, work on some more things. Okay. After we work on more bits and pieces, definitely. Now, yesterday, a funny thing happened. When I was closing everything, I kind of lost the best wireframe design that we had made. So I'm going to show you something which is like the wireframe only, may not look exactly same as what yesterday was looked like, but it's workable, it's bearable. Okay, so there is the hero section, and let me just quickly bring it up to you. Let me just share screen. So, oops, this is too big. Let me just make it smaller, smaller, smaller. Check-in link. Okay. Let me just share that quickly with you. So there's the header, and there was, oops, this became too big. So we had made the hero and we had made the footer below. So I'm just going to just put it here, and this is where our content is going to come. Let me mark that in green for now. So this is where our cards are going to come. And there was an interesting suggestion from someone that I had the position, I had the company name, I had the button, okay, that was going to be, but I needed something here and someone suggested online or in person, like not online, sorry, remote or in person opening. So that is what we are going to add to these things. So there would be a job title, there would be the name of the company, there would be a call to action button, and then there would be online sorry, why do I say online, a remote or in person job opening. So these are the four things that we are going to show in the card. Now let me just quickly resolve the issue of not able to check in. I'm going to share that link again. Okay, I have shared it again in the chat. Please have a look. Mostly you should be able to, yeah, just copy paste that and run it. Not run it, copy paste it, and you will be able to log in. Now let's come back to our code. So this was there, and we were going to add the content coming here soon. Let me just close in some of the extra things that I have open here right now. And the next thing I want to show you, that is this format button. Now let's see if it works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. If you click on it, it would just format your code really nicely. Just, add some spaces here and there, make it more readable. So please click on that format button. It should be just next to the name of the page that you have open, the file that you have open. It should be there, a button to format it. So if you click on it, it should format it. If you don't have it, that's fine, that's okay. Now moving on, let's go on to our Tailwind play. Remember Tailwind play? Anyone who remembers it, you would, like, who was yesterday, they would remember it. Anyone who does not remember it, let me share the link again in the chat. So Tailwind play is where we are going to make our cards, okay, make the cards that we have been talking about. Uh, Now, with regards to the cards, I also have one more interesting feature. What if we add the company logo in a circle, okay, a circle on the left of the job opening? I think it would look good, right? Yeah, so let's try that. We'll try all these things. And of course, you can feel free to remove what you don't want, feel free to change the styling of what you don't like. And that's what Tailwind allows us to do. So without any further ado, let's go to Tailwind Play. And I'm going to just delete everything that we have here. Even though this is a nice looking card, if you think about it, this is a really nice looking card. But we are going to start at the most basic that we can, and then we are going to build from there. So now that I have deleted everything, let me get started with building our own card. So to build our own card, of course, we need a div. Okay. Okay, so we have created a div. Everything that we write will go inside this div. Okay, so once we are inside this div, what is going to happen? Now for the cards, I am going to just write something that I have, and I would love that you keep an eye on what I am writing, what am I doing, why am I doing what I'm doing, and maybe you would, get an idea of the choices that I make with regards to the content that I put right now here. Okay, so number one is, in this div, the first thing is, remember, class. So Tailwind works on classes. It takes in a bunch of classes. Now, the first thing that I want to work on is uh, make the card. Okay, make the card, the inside of the card. So with the card, we need to add a background, right? A background of some color. So let's add a bg dash white. Does bg dash white exist? Remember, we could do just a quick search and search for customizing colors, and is there a white? Seems not, but we can use bg dash slate dash 50. So even though there is no white or there is no black, it exists, the colors exist. Okay, let me tell you that, like white somewhere around here. So white exists. Let me be very sure about that. But we can also use some different colors. So let's take bg dash slate dash 50. So bg dash slate dash 50. We can take that. And so this is the first thing that we add. What's the next thing to add? Now we have the background. Now what else do we want? We want to add a border to it so that it becomes visible. So where do add how do we add the border? If you search for border, you would get so many things. Bordered 0 is gives a border width of 0, bordered 2, and border, adding just border gives a border width of 1 pixel. And you can see the usage. So look, someone has added border and that has this width. Someone adds a border 2, and if you add like this border color, so this border color is also really important. So let's go and add that border color. So we have added the border and we can add the border color. So border dash slate dash 800, think should be good. Now, even though we keep writing things here, there's nothing displayed. Okay, there's nothing being displayed. So what can we do? Let's add a h1 tag inside and say card, and let's close that div. Now we see, so just the div, it just takes up space and you cannot see anything inside it. But adding some content inside the div gives us the the outline of the card that we're building. So we have added the border slate, the background, sorry, the background of slate 50. We have added a border which has a border width of 1 pixel, and we have added the uh, color to that border. Now if I want more width, so I can do a border 2, and that would just increase the width. uh, I think a better way to see it would be, let's say I do a border 4, and now it's kind of more visible. There's a question in the chat about fellowship. So for the fellowship, I would request you to please go on Discord and go on the fellowship channel and please raise a ticket there. Someone from the MLH team would be the best person to help for that. So yeah, we have added border, we have added BG slate and everything. So let me just make it smaller. There's nothing like border 1. So remember, as soon as I do a border dash 1, it just disappears on the right hand side. There's no border visible. So it's either border or border 2. Let's go with border 2 for now. We'll change it, of course. Remember, my design skills are okay right now at this moment. Next, I need some padding here. It's like, oh my god, so cramped. So remember, yesterday we did a py, which basically adds space on the top and the bottom. We can also do a left and right spacing, which is px. So think of it as Cartesian coordinates. Okay, our normal graph, the way we do normal graphing, we divide the graph paper into x and y axis, sorry, and the x is basically our left and right, and y is top and bottom. You can also, okay, now instead of, now this is padding top padding bottom, y is padding top padding bottom, and x is padding left padding right. Let's say I want to add padding to all four sides and I want to add a single padding. I can do a p dash, let's say 9, and it would add padding on all sides possible. Okay, so see, it gives a padding which is like on every side. If I do, like, just have a look at this. So this adds on all sides, equally on all sides, on top, bottom, left, right, based on the size of the content, of course. So, but I'm going to stick with what I had because I want like more padding on the top and bottom and less padding on the left and right. So we have added the paddings on the top, bottom, left, right, which is good. Like, looks good, right? Uh, what's next? Now, with what's next, actually, let's stop it right here and let's add the next part. Now, with the next part, I am going to, hmm, I should add the name, the company name. Now, there's a lot of things that we could do here. I am going to first wrap it in another div. Why? Because I want to, have a styling for the div inside, some different styling for the div inside, and we'll add a p tag. In the p tag, let's call. So for now, these are all placeholders. So placeholders. So remember, on the top we wanted the position, the job job title. Let's You can call it job title. Then below that, we want the company name. So let's put that as here company name, and that goes around here. Then what's the next thing that we want? We wanted if it's a remote position or if it's a in-person position, right? So we can do a p tag again and just say, like, initially let's say remote and close that. For any other job that is coming in, we can change this. Now, on the right hand side, you can see the layout, how it looks like. And we just want to modify this layout, make it like better, definitely. Example, job title. Yep, that should be big and bold. Company name, we can kind of make it smaller and lighter. The remote and in person, we can, of course, make some changes for that too. So with that in mind, let's start styling. So right now we have just written the text. We have not styled it at any point. So what we can do is we can add a class here. And in this class, we can say text dash LG. So what does that do? So text dash LG adds the font size of 1.125 rem and a line height of 1.75 rem. Next, I want this font. So remember, we had so many options. So there was sans, serif, mono, thin. I want this to be bold. So let's go with semi bold. Semi bold should look good. Or I think medium is also fine. So let's go with medium. And what about the color? So text dash, what color can we choose? So let's go back to customizing colors. So many options. I'm going to choose, let's go with gray 900. Gray 900. Okay, so text dash gray and then 900. So this adds a bit of flair to this particular thing. Next, what next? Now let's talk about the next one. I told you I want it to be comparatively smaller. So instead of text large, I'm going to go with text and then let's see the option. There's ellipse, clip, left. I want the size. So sizing is XS, which is like too small. SM. I think like this looks good. So let's go with SM. What about the font? I want the font to be light or maybe normal is also fine. Definitely not medium, otherwise it would make it same as the job title. I want a difference to be there. So let's go with uh, light. Okay, let's go with light. Then what about the text color? So text and then what should be the color? We can go with a gray again, but instead of like too dark, we can go with a lighter option like text gray 500. Yeah. Then what's next? Now with this remote and in person, so let's add a class. Now there should be some space between the top two things and this remote. So I can add a margin to it. So look at this. What it does is if I do a empty dash 4, it adds some spacing. So what is the difference between margin and padding? Now that would not be exactly what I'm looking forward to explain as a part of this, but we can keep a check on that. Inspect. Let's do an inspect here. And if you open the styles console, okay, and you go to computed, you'll understand where the margin and where the border and where the padding gets applied. So on any layout, you can understand. So let's say I select this particular line. So this is the position. There is no margin on top or no padding on top, or this is the border where it is being applied. There's a padding. Actually, I think going to this website would be better. The website that we have built, definitely. So let's say I select this content that we had yesterday added, and we said that we'll come back to this. So if you go to computed, you can see there's a padding being applied of 192 here. Okay, a padding of 192, and there's no margin, and there's a border which is again null. So anywhere you see a dash, it means it's not being applied. But in the padding, there is like a padding on the top, and the bottom of 192 is being applied. Now if we add a margin, you can double click on it and add, let's say, some margin. Today just, I'm just not able to click on it. Okay, I can click on padding. Yeah, finally, I was able to click on margin. If I add 40, and you see what happened, it's now showing a margin on the top in the orange of 40. I can add a margin on the bottom, and let's say call it 80. Okay, let's look at what's happening. The content is kind of staying there, everything else is being pushed down. So you can now see the orange area. Initially, we did not have the margin, we only had the padding, but now we have margin as well as padding. If I reload it to go back to what it was, you can see just the greens, and the footer was a bit on the upside, okay, a bit on the top side. But as soon as you start adding, let's say, margin, let's say I add a margin of 100, it pushed the footer down. Okay, so that is what a margin and padding does. So where is padding being applied? So instead of 192, let's call it 400. The content, the text stayed right there, and then there was more space coming in. So you can definitely work with it, see what's happening in margin and padding. But with that, let's come back here. So we are applying a margin top of 4. So what it does, it applies a margin top of 1 rem. Okay, what next? Now this text, I can again have it like small, so text dash sm. What about the font? This font can be let's go with medium. Yep. And the text color, so text dash gray dash I think 500 or 600. 600 looks good. Now, even though we have done so many things, this slate 50 border, it's not like making it look nice. So I'm going to change it. Okay. And remember, I told you white exists. So if you do a white, it still exists. So I'm going to keep it as white. Okay. So now I think it looks a bit better, comparatively better, definitely. What next? Now I have all these things, but on the left and the right, I think this is like too big for now. And if we copy this whole thing, this one div, if we copy this div and paste it right below to have a second one, where is the border gone? What happened to the border? Okay, now these are some of the questions that we need to answer in a way. Like, where is the border going on? We need more borders. Like, each card should be divided, definitely, right? So if we want to do that, what should be our next step? Let me tell you that. Okay. So we are going to work with something called as grid. Okay. What is a grid? Let's go back to Tailwind and let's search for grid. So display grid. Use grid to create a grid container. So what does that do? You add this class grid and a gap of 4, grid calls 3, and grid rows 3. I think it's fairly easy to understand. So grid, what is grid doing? Grid is creating something called as a grid layout. We can like, we'll understand more about it once we start using it. A gap of 4 basically puts this gap in between. Grid calls 3, so 3 columns, we want 3 columns. And grid rows 3 means we want 3 rows. Okay, it's, again, Tailwind CSS documentation helps a lot here. So grid is something, there is another way to display stuff, and that is like, there's so many actually in a way. There's block, there's inline block, there's inline, there's flex, there's inline flex, there's table, inline table, and yeah, a lot of ways. So what is block? So use inline block and block to control the flow of text and elements. So when controlling the flow of text, use the CSS property display inline will cause the text inside the element to wrap normally. So this is wrapped normally. When using the property display inline block will wrap the element to prevent the text inside from extending beyond its parent. So whatever its parent, it's not going to go beyond it. So display inline, look at the break it causes. Display inline block, it takes up whatever inside the parent. Okay, it takes up the space how much ever it needs. And display block, it takes us just that whole line. It takes the whole line. So like there, the major two ways of styling something is either flex, or that is flex box, or there's grid. So now grid is what we are going to look at, and look at like so many ways to create a grid, and we can work more with grid, but I'm going to just now search grid and what it does. So in grid you can define how many rows you want, how many columns you want. So with that in mind, let's check the rows. So grid and grid rows 4, and grid flow call and gap 4. Okay, so 1 to 9, there are so many divs being created right here. And grid gives that idea. So we want 4 rows. Okay, and the flow is column. What is going to be the flow? We'll look into it. Maybe we won't need it. Who knows? Okay, so let's use this newfound knowledge of grid that we got. So grid allows us to style the content. So think of each card like this: one is one card, two is one card, three is one card, and each of them are different cards. We will use the grid to just lay out, give a layout to each and every card, and we'll style them also, and we'll put like one card next to each the other, and then the next beside it. And once the size of the page becomes smaller, we'll like vertically align it. So initially it would be horizontally 1 2 3, and then if it becomes a mobile, then we'll vertically align it. Okay, so with that in mind, let's come back to our code, and we'll add a few more divs up and down. So let's add the first div. So whenever you add something, make sure that you close it, because most of the times we just forget to close. Okay, what's the next thing? Uh, Step number 1, what should be the size of the screen? Okay, that is very important to understand. What should be the size of the screen, and what should happen if it tries to go beyond that size? So right now this is changing with regards to the screen, like whatever size of the screen I make, it's just like taking up the whole space. We can make some changes there. So number 1, let's add some margin on the top. It's like too cramped, so margin empty 8. Remember, what does margin do? It just gives some space, pushes the content down, and yeah, we have some space. What about on the x-axis? So we can do something like px dash, let's say 4. Okay, brought it in. It's starting to look good. So margin, we added the margin. It brought the content down, and we added some padding on the left and right. Now padding x of 4, px of 4, this looks good on desktop, definitely. It could look on mobile. But remember, what do we do if we want to add two different kinds of padding? Okay, two different kinds of padding. So there was something interesting yesterday, if you remember. If we do a SM colon and we do, let's say, px dash 6, just keep looking at the space, just the space, and you will see that that space will suddenly change. Like there's a minor change happening. We can add more to it. Let's say we'll add 12. So if it is greater than a smaller screen, so it's basically above mobile screen, then we need the padding on the x-axis, that is left and right, to be px-12. But if it's mobile screen and if I just start reducing it, you can see this change that happens. Okay, so we have defined that. But let's say I want to add more definitions to it. Why am I adding it? Just because I can show that to you. So I can say if it is above the smaller screen, add a padding of 6. But if it is above large screens, okay, it's like a wide monitor or something, then add a padding of 8. So now we have added three different styles of padding. Yep. So the first padding is the default padding. This would be applied one rem on the left, one rem on the right. But if we go above small screen, then this would change to 1.5 and 1.5. But if we go above a large screen, this would change to 2 rem on the left and right. So I hope you get the idea of what this thing does. It gives a screen size. So based on the screen size, what do you want to do? Based on the screen size, what do you want to do? How much space, let's say, you want to add to the left and right of things. Okay, so this looks good. Now that we have spacing, you can also define something like a max width. So let's say I want the max width. If I do a 0, then there's no max width. If I do a none, it's basically saying don't define anything. SXS gives a max width of XS. Then there's SM, there's MD, there's LG, there's XL, and things will are changing. It's just like not visible enough. Uh, but a standard practice. So you get the idea. None and XS, SM, MD, LG, XL, 2XL, 3XL, 4XL, 5XL, 6XL, 7XL, and so many. Okay. So these are the max width. Now the standard practice is kind of just defined it to be max width of 5XL, which basically tells it that whatever is the screen size, just don't go beyond this 5XL size. So look at this. If I'm making this bigger, there is space left, which looks bad. So everything is like left aligned right now. Okay, our cards are going to be left aligned because we added a max width. We said that okay, even if the screen size goes beyond like a certain limit, make sure that the max width of the cards are going to be this, like 64 rem. That's the max. We don't want it to go beyond that. But now if it's a big screen, you will see that the card is on the left and everything else is on the right. On the right hand side is white space. Now we can do a align this to a center. Now the best part is you can do something called as mx dash auto, and that would align it to center. Now it looks like nothing changed, but let's make the screen size bigger and you get to see the difference. Okay. So what is this MX auto thing? If you hover over it, it is basically saying on the margin left, it's auto, margin right, it's auto, kind of pushes everything in the center. Okay. So this is another way to center something. Okay, it's being applied on the div class, and mx auto helps us to just align everything to center. It's not visible on smaller screen, but if we go beyond that, remember that the white space that was just on the right, now it's equally distributed on left and right, and our content is aligned in the center. So now it's starting to look better and better, and now we'll go beyond that definitely. The next step is this grid thing that we I showed you, but I did not start with it. Now we can do that in a different div. So let's create a div, and once you create something, just close it too at the same time. Now in the second div, we are going to talk about the grid. So what should we do? Let's first give it a margin, empty dash one. Uh, yeah, just some spacing definitely. Even if you don't do that, that's fine. Okay. To use a grid, you say grid. That's the first thing. Nothing changed. Like keep looking at the right hand side. Nothing has changed. Now with grid, remember you can also define a lot of things. So let me just quickly search for display grid. So grid gap 4, grid calls 3, grid rows 3. I'll just copy this whole thing for now. For now. Okay. Focus on that word for now. And let's see what changes. Okay. I did something and the size became small, but there's still it's not divided, this thing and this thing, this job title and this job title. I can give it a numbering, job title 1 and job title 2. These things are not exactly divided, so I need to divide this. I need to add something to it that will ensure that okay, this is the division that we're talking about. This thing is like one whole thing. Like this card is one thing and this job title 2 card is separate thing. So I can do again something like a div again. So once you start a div, you have to close that div. But now this div is where I am going to close it. I'm going to say that this is one div and this is the second div. Perfect. Now I think I messed up somewhere. What happened was this class of BG white and everything that is now being applied only to this job title 1. So let's do a control Z or command Z or whatever. We could also delete it, but hey, we're learning here. Okay, so we have the BG white, we have, yeah, kind of everything. So now let's go inside this. So this is where we want to create the division. Now I have added, so this is our first card, this is our second card, and this is where we want the division. So let's add a div at this point and let's close that div at this point. So this is our first div, and similarly, so div and things, and we can add, I think, a div here and another div here. Yep. Still no breaking. We'll come to it. We'll come to it. We'll definitely come to it. Okay. So with that in mind, what we can do, let's think. Let's think about it visually. Let's think about it visually. I have two divs. I want a break in between those two divs. What should I do? What should I do differently that will ensure that, okay, this is the first div component and this is here, then this is the second div component and this is here. So I'm going to give you a trick. I'm going to tell you what I will do is number one, add a class here. Okay, and now I'm going to give it a bunch of things. One way to style something was grid, the other way to style something was flex. But for the purpose of this one, what we are going to do is we are going to tell it that, hey, this content, the easiest way, like I'm going to tell you the easiest way to do this. We had this wrapping class. Let's click on this tidy and you will get a better idea. So we had this wrapping class and there's this particular div which is ending right here, and there was this div which is ending right here. If I can take this thing out, okay, take it out and put it right here, and then take this particular div and wrap it, oops, wrap it here and just close it down here somewhere, You have to. So this is the easiest way to do it, right? Just check what is wrapping. Where do you want things? So now this becomes our first card, and this whole thing becomes our second card. So this is what I wanted to go for. Like so many options out there, but what's the easiest? What is the easiest thing that will get our job done? And I think this is the easiest one. And look at on the right hand side, now we have two cards. So now if you want a third card, you can just copy this like line 14 to line 22 and paste it right here. And now we have job title 1, job title 2, and let's say this is job title 3. Okay, we're getting an idea. What's the easiest way to take something out and put it? Just take the whole wrapping thing. And now let's also do for the fourth one. So let's call it job title 4. Look at this, the grid is making its magic. So it's saying grid, and it's taking like three columns. The number of rows, now this is a very interesting one. With regards to the number of rows, what if we have more data? We don't want to end up showing only 3 rows of data, so we can actually remove this part. Okay, nothing will change, but once you have more data coming in, you have the job title 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The number of rows will keep increasing, but the number of columns, it's going to stay statically to where it is right now. Okay, so 3 columns only. But if I make it small enough, what's going to happen? If I make it small enough, it becomes ugly, it becomes bad. So remember the magic of small screen, large screen, and everything? We are going to put that magic here in play. So we have grid. We had grid calls 3, but we only want grid calls 3 to happen when it is more than a small screen, or we can say if it's above medium screen. Okay, this is also one option. So there's small, there's large, there's also medium. So above medium screen, we want 3 columns. But for a, what's the default? So default, we want grid dash calls dash 1. So this is our default. Default, we want 1 column. Okay, 1 column. But above MD3, that is like, let's say iPad screen, we want 3. But if we go beyond that, if we go like to a very large screen, we can change this again. We can say that or actually, let's talk about, now this is above iPad screen. Okay, so above iPad screen we want 3 columns, which is understandable. Like look at this. But when it becomes a iPad screen, I think we can go for 2 columns, right? So SM, we can do SM, and above SM, that is above mobile, we want 2 columns, and beyond that we want 3. So like look at this, this is the responsiveness. For a very large screen it's 3. When we start reducing it, and at this point it becomes 2 columns, and then it just fills up the row, and we go beyond that, we make it as small as possible, it goes to 1. Okay, so look at the power of responsiveness right here. So many good things have been happening with this, and this looks like, let's look so sleek and so good, right? Perfect. Okay, I'm just playing with it a lot, but what have we done till now? So, step number 1, we have taken this particular thing and repeated it multiple times, because I showed you the best way where you can segregate something, add a border to it, and then we copied that over a bunch of times and we made multiple cards, definitely. So, that's one way to do it. And we have added this grid, which is allowing us to add responsiveness. We added this thing on the top where we are saying like what should be the padding on all sides. Okay, and with that in mind, let's move ahead and add 2 more things, and then we'll just copy this over. Okay, copy this over to our original code. I like this border, definitely like this, but can we make it a bit rounded? Like, just a bit circular? I think that would look good, right? So, where do we add that? So, in Tailwind, you can do like where we are adding the border, we can also add a rounded and look at this MD, LG. Keep looking at this border thing. Okay. LG XL, 3XL, and full. You see the difference? I think we can go with a border of MD. MD looks good. It's not like sharp edges, but it's just enough. Even LG. I think let's go with LG. LG is more noticeable. So if we are adding rounded LG here, we will need to add it everywhere. And that is the problem right now that we are facing, which we are going to solve. Like any style that I do on the first div right here, we'll have to repeat it everywhere else, which is problematic. Okay. Also, now that I notice it fairly, there is this first div, which is giving the border and the color and the background and padding and the shape of the border, border radius. There is this div which is like encompassing this one. This div is not exactly doing anything. So even if we reduce that div, what is going to happen? Well, nothing. So I'm just removing the extra div that we have right here. We may need to add it later, but we'll come to it. We'll come to it definitely. Remember, we will need it because of the image that I was planning to add. But I'm removing it for now just so that we don't mess up adding it at the wrong place and then go like, why is it not happening? Why is this image not encompassing inside one div or something? So yeah, this is what we end up with. Now I'm going to take a pause here and I'm going to ask anyone any questions. If you keep looking at the code, you'll find similarities. This whole thing is exactly similar to this and this and this. We talked about what we are doing on the top two divs. Okay. So now that you have had a clear look at it, any questions before we move on further? Anyone? Okay, the borders are not visible. So if the borders are not visible, border dash 2, have you added border dash 2 and the border color? These are the two most important things right there. So I'll just make the screen size a bit bigger. Border dash 2 and border dash slate dash 800. So the first one gives the thickness. So if I want the borders to be more thick, I can go like border dash 4 and look at this. Whoa, this becomes big, right? But yeah, that's what is giving the thickness. And with the thickness, you also need the color. So if you have added those two things, you should have the border. Okay, dope. I'll take the silence as golden. Seems like things are going great. Now let's come back. We are missing two more things right here. Number one is the button. Okay. And number two is the image that I was planning to add. So the image that comes on the left hand side of this div. Now things are going to get messy. So let me think, what should be the first thing that we should do? Should we add the button first or should we add the... Okay, let's go one by one. Let's start with the image first. So once you have all of this, I'm also going to... I can do one thing. I can do job one start, and let's change this to job one end. Okay. and I'll copy this whole thing and I'll paste it in chat for anyone who is like lagging behind. What you have to do is copy paste this on play.tailwindcss.com, and it should be fairly visible to you then, like the job cards and everything. But for any, then if you want to have this job too, just take everything in job one start to job one end and paste it right below, paste it right below, paste it right below, and you'll have four of them. Now let's see if this goes properly and does not break somewhere because of these limits in the size. Yep, it did. Hmm. Well, that's sad. So I don't think I'll be able to, yeah, push everything in chat, because yeah, there's a limit on the chat size. But hopefully you all are back, like you all have reached till this point. Now let's talk about the image. So I have added a bunch of spaces right here, and we'll add the image. So for the image, we will again add the div which encompasses the image. It's like wraps the image inside it. Now that we have the div, it's very easy to add an image. So image needs something called as src, and then you need to self close an image. So where do we find an image? I can just Google for company logo, a random logo. Uh, let's say this first one. Okay, all copyrights to their respective owners. I will click on this open image in new tab. I will copy this thing. Okay, copy the URL and come back to our Tailwind play, and inside the source, this is where the image goes. Now look at how it looks. I wouldn't say it looks bad. Definitely not look, doesn't look bad. Just think about it, like every job title would have a logo and you would have it coming. Okay, you can see it at the center. I would say it looks good, it looks fine enough, doesn't look bad or something. Definitely no gap in your job labels. So if you don't have gap in your job labels, this is the trick that I followed. Okay, if I select one thing, you will see like multiple lines are being selected. So this is the exact same line which is being used. So line number 4 starts here and it ends on line 15. And then line number 18, the same thing starts and it ends on, let's say, line number 24. That ways. And also don't forget this gap dash 4. Okay. So gap dash 4, grid calls 1, gap dash 4. These are the things that would make the gap in between. Okay, coming back. Okay, this looks good, I would say. It doesn't look bad, definitely. Can we add a few more things? Let's say I want the image to be rounded. So we can add a class. So we know how to make something rounded. We add rounded dash, and there are so many options. Let's go with 2XL. So we did that, but nothing is visible. Why cannot I see anything? Well, because there's a border missing. So I can do a border dash 2. Okay, I can do a border dash 2 and add, let's, if I don't add a color, look at the default color that it takes. Now rounded dash 2XL, it looks good, but it makes it a rectangular. What if I want it like a full circle? Is there anything that will make it full? Hmm, this looks like nearly there. It looks like it is making like in near circle, but not exactly circle. So what needs to change? So what has happened? Let me like quickly reiterate. I have added a rounded full, which is making it nearly a circular. I've added a border too, which is adding the border so that it's visible to us. But it's not exactly like a circle. I want a circle. So we can define the height of the image. We can define the height of the image as 10, and we can define the width of the image as 10, and that makes it circle. It's as simple. So instead of 10 10, you can go for some other sizes. So let's say you want, just make it like same. Okay, definitely if you make it same, let's say height of 14 and width of 14, then it will ensure that your image just comes inside it, and it has the same height and width. So basically we are making a circle. Okay, think of it as a radius, right? As a radius, we want it to be like the left and right should be same, so all side it should be same. So that's why the height and width we are saying, if we give it the same number, it gives us the image logo in circle. Now this is one way to look at it. Again, I would say it looks good, but can we make it better? That's what we are here for, right? To make it better. So to make it better, now this is where things are going to get a little bit crazy, but just hold on. Like, just be with me and you will be able to find uh answer in this madness that we are going to follow right now. And I make it so dramatic. So number one, so for making this, like what I want, what I exactly want, I want the image to stay where it is, it's on the left, and then I want these three things to go on the right. Okay, so image on the left and everything on the right. So if I go to the Google Keep documentation, this is like, this is the image on the left, everything on the right side. Okay, like next to the image. So this we can say, like, there is a column here, there is a column here, in a way, right? So that is one thing that we can do. We can use grid again, because grid has this thing called as columns. So that's one way, but I'll also show you something like called as flex. So step one is to add position. So the position is going to be a relative. So we are going to say that with regards to its outer boundary, or yeah, the position of every element inside it, it's going to be relative to its parent. Positioning is like very difficult and kind of out of scope for what we are doing today. So I'm going to just start adding a few things, and you'll keep looking at it. So relative did not do anything, but with relative, if I add a flex, look at this, it kind of got solved. Things are on the right hand side, the image is on the left, and everything else is coming on the right hand side. We are making progress. So, and where did we add it? Yeah, we added it at like relative and flex. These are the first things. I think Tailwind just changed the placement of it. So relative and flex. Now what about the spacing? So spacing between the image and the text, I want the space, and I want it on the x-axis, and I want the space to be, let's say, 3. So what is happening? Keep looking on the right hand side. Okay, if I start adding space, like, look, where is that job title going? It basically, it's adding space between the left content and the right content. I don't want it to be too far, so I'm going to keep it at space dash x dash 3. Okay, secondly, once okay, I think, yeah, this is good. Okay, this is good, right? Look at this, looks so good. And remember what we do. And also, yeah, also look at this, if I make it small, big, whatever, the content stays there, the image stays where it is, the content stays where it is, and it's just responsive. This is good. So what do we do? Remember, for anything, so job one start, this is where we made changes. I can copy this whole thing, paste it right here, and just change this job title 1 to job title 2. Copy this whole thing, paste it right here, change the job title 1, 2, and 3. And yeah, now for the difference, I will like keep it as it is right now. This is what we started with, this job title 4. This is the card that we started with, and this is what we ended with, right? Again, I would say this looks great, frankly. Now comes the next part. So we are going to go back to our job one start. So we have this first div, which is about the image. Okay, the first div, not the first div, sorry, the second div, like line number 5 to line number 7. This is about the image, so I can add that as a comment here: image start and image end. That's the first. So job one start, there is one div, and then we have the image start and image end. Then we have the content start, strat, not strat, uh, start, and then this is content end. Now the next and the final thing that we want in the card is the button, right? The button. So let's start with that. Now there are two ways to do it. Again, what we always start with, we always start with a wrapping div. Okay, this is like becoming easy and easy. Whatever you want to do, add a wrapping div to it, and then do everything that you want inside. Now I'll show you two ways to do it. Number one, you can add something called as a button. Okay, and inside the button, you it needs to close, and you can say this is button, and now this is button, but there's like it doesn't look like a button, right? So for a button to look like a button, of course you need to add some class. You can add border. Okay, now we have added a border. Let's add a border of 2, and look at how the button looks. This is a button, and this border, this looks bad, but it looks clickable. Like, look at the mouse change. The mouse changes from uh, arrow to a pointer, cursor pointer. Okay, so this looks fine, but I want the border to be rounded. So for rounded, remember what we do? We do a rounded dash something. So let's say rounded dash, not large is too big. We can do a rounded dash SM. Okay, this looks fine, maybe even MD. Next thing is, like, this is too cramped. Look at the border, look at the text. I want some spacing. I want the button to kind of flow. So we can do something like, on the x-axis we want spacing of 4. Look at this, like it suddenly changes. There's space on the left, there's space on the right, but I want some space on the top and bottom also. So we can do a py, but py dash 4 is too big. I think py dash 2, this looks fine enough, right? Looks fair enough. So this is the third thing, that so we have added some spacing on the left and right, top and bottom, border and rounded. Okay. What about the color? Can we add some color? So for the background, we can add a background color to the button. So we can do a BG dash, let's say blue, and dash 700. Yeah, this is good. But now look at the text color. Dark blue and then black on it. This looks like so bad. So we can change the text color too. So text dash, let's say blue dash 50. Okay, this is looking fine, good and good enough. But now the border looks bad, right? The border, the gray border on the blue one looks bad. So I can just remove the border. Again, we are going towards the simplest of solutions. Now, if you look at the button, it looks good. There is a border, there is a button, there's a size. The text size, I think we can reduce it a bit. So we can go like text dash SM. This makes the text size smaller. Okay, it's looking better and better. Instead of calling it this is a button, we can call it job link. Okay, yes. Again, coming on to better and better. Now I'm going to show you some good things again. You can change. So the background is blue 700, but if I hover over it, basically I go over it, I want the color to change. So you can do something like hover and BG dash, what is a good color that will actually show change. Let's go where like BG dash red dash 500, and you can give like understand what is happening. So if I hover over it, the color changes, right? Not, let's go with green. I think this is 600. Yeah. Yep. Looks good, right? So this is what we end up with. So there's a job link, there is this, and it looks good, but hmm, the placement, the placement is a problem right now. What can we do? So we can try something which I did try once. I'm not sure if it is going to work. Justify end. Okay, so it stays on the top, it stays on the right. Can we make it go all the way to the right hand side? Hmm, interesting. Can we do something like that? Hmm? Think about it, and I would request you to find the answer to this. And with that, we can take a break right now. Actually, let's take a break right now. Let's come back after 10 minutes. Just see what we have right now. We have the job title, we have company name, we have this logo, we have remote, we have a job link, and clicking over it does nothing to us. So let's take a break, and during the break I would request you just stretch around, have some water, and think, can we take this on the right, like on the right and maybe just below? Okay, I want this job link to be on the right and below. Can we do it? Can we do it? Let's think. And after the break, we'll come. Once we come back, we can have a solution. Can I scroll up for a bit? Yep, for sure. Let me just. Is this screen size good and everything visible? Keep it like right here. And I'm going to mute myself. See you in 10 minutes. Let me put up a banner. And I'm back. Hello, hello, hello. Perfect. So, with that in mind, let's continue. So, before going on break, I asked you all, can we take this job link on the right hand side? So, if I make it small enough, yeah, at this point, do you see what's happening right there? So, for that to get sorted or that link to go on the right, there are multiple things that we could do. So, I'm going to show you how to take it on the right hand side. For taking it to the bottom, that is something I would give out as, let's say, homework. Okay. Now, to make it take it on the right, what you have to do is the content. You just make the content big enough, automatically the button will go on the right. So let's do that. So let's add a class, okay? And the class would be flex dash one, and that's what's it, okay? And that's what's it. You get the idea. So for a screen where it comes out to this is what you need to do. And with that in mind, and as I said, just this becomes like so easy. And this is what it does under the hood. You can read more about this on tailwindcss.com. But hey, we have what we wanted. We have had the, yeah, exactly. It was really simple. It was just so simple, right? Love Flexbox and Grid. And more about it on Tailwind CSS. You can just go there, search for Flex Dash One, and yeah, allow the flex item to grow and shrink as it want. Okay, can we add a margin top to the button so it moves a bit down? You can try that. You can definitely try that. So if you go here and add, let's say, empty dash 5 or something, yeah, it comes down a bit. Empty dash 8, yep. Empty dash 12. This looks good. You can, like, this is one way to make it come down. But then the problem is, how much margin do you add, especially when the screen size keeps changing? So you are kind of on the right track, but I would request you to just, go out and just search. It is something to do with, again, flexbox and bringing things down. If you go to the flexbox, you would find it. Let me give you that big hint. So now that we have it, now that we have the solutions to near, like, for the job one. So what it is, whatever we have written in job one, if we just copy paste it multiple times, we will have the same thing for job two, job title three, and everything. Okay. And I'll also talk about the pain of repeating content. But for now, okay, just for now, let me just delete everything, like delete job 2, so that we can copy paste this on our website, our this good looking website that we have. So let me just delete these bits and pieces, and this is what we end up with: one job. And we know that this thing works. It accommodates multiple grids, multiple things. When they come in, it's automatically responsive. That's the word there, responsive. And click on this tidy and it would make it tidy and everything. Now do a copy. I'm doing command C, you can do control C, you can just right click, copy, all those things. And let's go to our code right here. And remember, this is where it was going to come in. So I'm going to just take out this div, okay, and I'm going to paste the code that we have. And something broke. What broke? Yeah, of course. These things, these are HTML comments. So in React, if you want to add inline comments, it's a curly bracket, forward slash, and everything. But I'm just going to delete it because you know what it is. Okay. So let's start deleting some content, some comments, and let's just pray that it works. I'm joking, it will work. And this is what we have, this is what we end up with. Okay, we can click on this open in new tab button, but I can, since I have it open, I can go directly there. Look at this, it tells you like there would be a grid call and there would be like three coming in, and when you have multiple, that's going to come in. And let's make the screen size big enough. This is what it is going to look like. uh, Make it a mobile, this is what it looks like. The problem is this. Okay, and there's this warning, remember the yesterday's warning. Why are you adding class? Do you mean to add a class name? Okay, let me just make it big enough and it should be visible. So it's asking, so yeah, we need to change this. So let's go to our class, and if you do a multi-select, if you want to do a multi-select, you can just select everything and then press Command D on Mac or Control D on Windows. Okay, and if you do this, you have multiple cursors and then you can just change everywhere at the same time. So now let's go, let's refresh this. Okay, that error is gone, but we still need some spacing on the top and the bottom. Yeah, so we have this, we have a margin top of 8. We can just add a margin bottom of, let's say, what we can add it 8, I think, right? That should be fine enough. Or we can add more. So what are the margin options available to us? This is where Tailwind Play just looks great, right? If you do a MB and then spacebar, you see the options that you have. Let's add an MB of 20. So I'm going to copy this or copy this. Why did I cut it? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to come here. Since I'm lazy, I'm going to paste it. I think which took more effort, but it was worth it. And now this is like there's space on the top and there's a space on the bottom. Whew, this is going great, right? Hero section, footer, cards, style the cards. We found everything that we can do. Remote, in person, everything. Hover, styles on hover. This is something that we added, the new thing. And it looks good. Now we want more content. Now, before we move on to that, there's this format button, click on it, and yep, that makes it better. Now, before we move on to the more parts, I'm going to talk about something very important which makes React different from everything like writing plain JavaScript, and that is making components. Okay, what are components? So components are basically the smallest building block. Think of a Lego, okay? The one piece of Lego, like that one block, that is, you can think of about it as a component. You take one piece, then you build on it, then you build on it, build on it, build on it, and very soon you have the whole Lego car being built. But it starts with a component. That's the smallest building piece. So how do we make components? How do we make components? Well, the answer is very simple. Whatever is going to be repeated across your code, take that out in a separate file, okay, and make it a component. Okay, so whatever is being repeated, or a self-contained thing, you can think about it as a self-contained thing. So this is our header, right? This is our header, this is our uh, the hero section. So I can take this out in a separate component. So if I go to the source, click on these three dots, click on add file, and I can say hero.jsx. This is the first component that we are making. So I'll first write things that are going to be repeated across everything. So import React from React. This is going to be in every component that we build. We'll add this line. The next thing is the name of the file. So the name of the file is what we name the component. So const hero, and then we add equals, and then empty brackets, then an arrow, and then yeah, this, and then we can add a return statement which is again empty, and finally we'll have export default, not, and whatever is the name of the variable here. So yeah, this is a pattern which we are going to use for every component that we build. And like these are some like simple lines. Import React from React comes in everything. Then you have a const, and then whatever is the name of the file, that's the name of the component that we go for. This is the pattern that we should follow, or it makes it easy to follow. Then inside that, add a return, and then export default, whatever is the name of the uh, variable right here. So this is one way. And again, if you follow this pattern, you can make as many components as you want. These are the common thing in a component. Now let's go to app.jsx, and this whole thing, I'm going to cut it from here. Okay, cut it, and you will see that it will just go away. We're going to bring it back, so don't worry. Let's come back to our hero and add it right here. Okay, we'll add it right there. We can just click on this format, and this is our first component. We have made our first component. Now in this, even though we have made it, we have not called the component here. So we can come here, we can go like on this line, we can go import, and we can say import hero, and see it gives the suggestion import hero from dot slash hero. Okay, hero is the name of our component, and then we call it here by doing angle bracket hero and closing angle bracket, and we have it again, we have it back. Similarly, we can do it for footer. Okay, now I'm going to just take a pause here, and I request you all to do it. It's simple, it's really simple. And also remember, for everything, as you can see, everything starts with a capital. So whenever you are making a new component, make sure it start, oops, what did I do? Not rename it, add file, and do a footer.jsx. And I'm going to wait for like a minute. It's simple. It's really simple. You know how to make it. I'm going to open the hero one for your reference. You can just look at it and you know what to copy paste. Once someone is done, just put it in chat like I'm done. Then I'll know that, okay, someone is following along and someone is building it out and someone has completed it. Waiting for exactly a minute, and we should be done by like the next 30 seconds. Done. Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm sure it was simple. So let's follow the pattern that we have been building. We used a pattern to build our cards. Now we are using a pattern to build our components. And everything is about just following a pattern. Oh, we are not importing footer because we have not created footer. So we are importing React from React. Okay, that's the first line. Then we create the component. Name of the file is the name of the component. So input const footer equals to empty brackets arrow and this, and add a return with empty thing. And finally, on the last line, you can do export default footer. And whatever we had cut, just paste it right here, and formatting failed. Okay, can someone point out what changed? What's the problem right here? So we had the same exact thing for this. Interesting. Why is it failing? Can someone point it out? What's the problem here? It's saying variable declaration cannot be empty. Huh. Come on. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. I think it's just taking some time to load, right? Yep. 99% I think it's taking some time to load. So if I just cut this whole thing and paste it again, yep, should work. And Click on, oops. This is interesting. Let's see if it works actually. So we have imported hero. Let's import footer from dot slash footer. Okay, and add the, so this is where the hero was. We can add the footer right here. So footer, and then just close, oops, close it. That should give us the answer. That should give us the footer right there. And there is an error coming. So pretty sure I messed up something with someone. Okay, server failed to respond. Okay, because this has not loaded. And why has this not loaded? Let me just reload everything. Now this is like really interesting just right here. It's saying, does this file exist? So let's check the name, Footer. Yeah, this file exists for sure, but it's still not loading it. Oh, there's a spelling mistake right here. In my app.jsx, I added like one extra O. Okay, what's the second problem? So in footer, remember we had used this FA GitHub, and that was here. So I can take this line out again from here and paste it below. Now let's see what's happening. And we have the output. Finally, we have the output. So you understood how I debugged it? I was looking at the console. It said here in app.jsx that, okay, you are importing something, but you're not using that thing. I was like, okay, let me go back to footer. And in footer, there was FA GitHub, and I had not imported it. So now I've imported that. I've added that in footer.jsx, and everything just works fine right now. So that's what we have done. Now let's check formatting. The formatting finally works. Perfect. So we have created two components till now, a hero component, a footer component. Now let's create another component. Let's call it a card component. Now card component is going to be interesting. Why? Because right now we have a static data there. So let's just follow what we do. Import React from React, and then we do a const card equals to empty array this, and then do a return. Inside the return we paste everything down, and let's do a export default, and we can do a card. So basically the name of the variable. Now we need to cut paste, of course, everything in here, so we will do that. So we are going to cut this. We are going to come to card. We are going to paste it right here. Hopefully we don't have any extra imports, do we? So no, nothing which is specific to cards. Now let's import card here. So import card from dot slash card, and to call it, you do a this and this one. Okay. Look at this. Just makes it so good, so easy, and again, separation of concerns. There is a separate file for hero, there's a separate file for card, there's a separate file for footer. No messing around, no mess, and everything just works out of the box. Perfect, right? Let me reload this, and yep, this looks good till now. Definitely it looks good till now. Now what is the problem that I was talking about? This is very static. If I want to add another one, then what would I have to do? I will have to just copy paste this from line 7, right? Like line 7, I will have to copy paste this till line, let's see. Yep, this is what where the copy paste would work. If I actually do it right now, you can actually have a look at it. If I copy paste this again, look at this. This is how it is working. But we don't want to do copy paste. This is where we are going to leverage the power of JavaScript. Okay, let's create now. Follow along, and even if you don't understand like the whole thing, just understand we are trying to make it dynamic. Okay, we are trying to make it dynamic, and to make it dynamic, what we are going to do, we are going to create a variable const data. Okay, now const data, this is going to be an array. Now if you don't know what an array is, just think of it, array as a collection of things. Okay, it's just like inside these square brackets you can have multiple things. Okay, multiple things that are repeated. Now inside this array we are going to create the first thing, which is the first object. Now object is, now array can be collection of multiple things, as I said. Here we are making the array as a collection of objects. Okay, what are objects? Objects are nothing but a key value pair. Okay, key value pair. Now someone has pointed out, by using for loop and array we can create other cards. Yes, exactly, that's what we are going to do. Just instead of for loop, I prefer using map, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first object is going to be our, what is an object? What is going to be in an object? In the object we are going to create the multiple job postings. So we can go like, the first thing is key. Okay, now key is very important. A key separates one object from the other, and it is needed by React. React complains that if you don't give it a key. So we give it the key of, let's say, one. This is the first job posting. What all does a job have? The job has image, right? And what is an image? Example of an image. This is image, right? This is a link to an image. So I can do a cut here, control X or command X, and paste it here, the first image. Then what else does a job have? Job title. Again, it's coming out as like, I'm putting these uh, inverted commas, double inverted commas, because it's a string. Okay, it's text basically. But the key, that was a number, so that's why no double inverted commas around it. And job title, let's say job title 1, this is the first one. Then we also take, we can call it, let's say, company name. Okay, so company name is, we can give it anything that we want. Let's call it company name 1. Okay, then what, location. Okay, so we can say, call it as location, and location is again a string. It is, for the first one, it is remote. Okay, and finally the job link. So we have everything. We did not have the job link, so let's create that. And job link, for the time being, we can say it is https colon slash slash google.com. Okay, that's easy. Don't forget to add a comma right here. If I don't add a comma, see, this becomes green. Okay, so there is some problem. Everything else is blue, this becomes green. So add a comma. Okay, at the end of it, add a comma. So we have added everything. Look on the right, it just is broken, but we'll sort it. So this is our first one. Let's create a second one. So remember, put a comma right here and create a second one. The key should be different. You can change the job title, change the company name, and instead of this, you can go to, let's say, twitter.com. Okay. So we have created two data. This is the first object. Object is nothing but it encompasses key and value pair. So image is a key and this is its value. Job title is a key. This is its value. Key is a key and this is its value. This is what we do. And we are keeping the structure constant. The data inside it can change. So job title 1 and this is job title 2. Company name 1, company name 2. This was a remote position. Let's say this is in person. Okay. This the job link for the first one was google.com. Job link for second one is twitter.com. We can create a third one. Okay. And let's say it can be mlh.io. So let's do that. Let's do that right here. And let's put a comma. Don't forget the comma. Otherwise, things are going to break. And let's put it a 3 here. This is 3. Company name 3. This is, let's say, a remote position. And the job link is mlh.io. Okay. We're doing good. We have 15 minutes around. So, yeah, we'll complete it. So now comes the second part. What have we done? So we have taken, like, we have created three jobs. Okay. Data. Let's call it data for jobs. Like, give it a better name. Data for jobs. More descriptive. So data for jobs, it's an array of objects. Array is, as I said, multiple collection of multiple things. An object is a key value pair. And coming back here, we are going, like, I have put some spaces around above this and below this. This is where we are going to do that for loop someone suggested. Would you ever have all these data points in a separate file? Yes, we can take that out in a separate file. We'll do this very quickly. So now, yeah, we are going to do a loop over this array. You can do it at, like, using multiple ways. I will use the simplest way. So for writing things like loop inside our JSX, you add a curly bracket. Then you can do data. Okay, data. What was the name? Data for jobs, right? So we can do a data for jobs. What is that? Data for jobs is basically our uh, what would you say, the variable name. Yeah, the variable name, that is our data for jobs. And you can do something like dot, and since it's an array has a map. So what is a map? You can read more about it on mdn web docs map property. Okay, not this one. Array dot map. Yes, array dot prototype dot map. So see, this is what it does. Okay, and it's again fairly easy to understand. There's an array, and you do array dot map, and for every element in the array, you can give it a variable again, x into 2, and you console log it. So 1 into 2 becomes 2, 4 into 2 becomes 8, 9 into 2 becomes 18, 16 into 2 becomes 32. I can do a run here, and this is what we have. Okay, this is what is the map doing, and you can read more about it, how it works, what it does exact, etc. So this is what we have done. So we have created an array of objects. Okay, we have created an array of objects. This is what we have done actually, right? So coming back, so we do a dot map, and inside map, remember, we have to add the variable name. So let's call it each job. Okay, that's our variable name, each job. So inside data for jobs, we have a variable each job, and each job, then we put this thing, this arrow, which is equal to and greater than sign. And then we are like this thing, this, like, this closing bracket and the curly bracket, we are going to cut it from here, and we are going to paste it on line 48, which is basically where my button ends. Okay, from there till here, this is where it ends. Now, for each job, what is going to happen? Like, look at this. Things have already started happening. Since we had three jobs, there are three cards. If we had only two jobs, you would see the number of cards is going to reduce. Okay, so it's already understanding. So the map is basically going over every object inside the array, and it is creating that many number of cards. But only that much is not enough. We need to add the data, we need to show something. So we put this round brackets, we started there, we ended here. Okay, and now comes this part. So first is source. In source we had the image link. Now we don't have the image link, we put a round bracket. And what is the variable name? Variable name is each job. So we do a each job and then dot. What is the dot? Dot is going to basically search for the property in this object. So dot image, that is where the image should come from. So we do a dot image, and let's see what happens. The image is here. Perfect. If we add a different image, so let's say company logo, and we just go there and search for another logo and open image in new tab, copy this link. Again, all the images belong to their respective owners. Just paste it right here and look at the job board. The images already have like perfectly coming up. uh, MLH logo. Again, let's open it in a new tab, copy the link, and you are getting an idea of how you can map over it definitely. And let's paste it right here. Go back to our job board and yep, it's there. Now, what looks bad? It looks very big and it's not like fitting. So we can actually solve that using in the class name using CSS, but we'll come to it. Let's first show everything. Now we have done each job, which was the name of the variable dot whatever is the name of the key, right? Also, React is going to complain a bit. It says this: each child in a list should have a unique key prop. Okay, what it basically is saying is add a key, please give me a key. So you can add it to the first div. Okay, the first div after the map. So here we add a property called as key equals to variable name each job dot what's the key. The key is called as key. So dot key. Now if we reload it, no problems. That's good. We are making progress. The next part is to show the text. So we again do a brackets. So this is called as JavaScript expressions. So we are doing inline expressions. So each job dot. So first we needed the job title, right? So we can just copy the variable name, put it right here. And if you go to the output, look, we already have job title 1, job title 2, job title 3. Things are coming in. And we are only writing it once. So now let's go to the next one. Each job dot the next variable name. What was it called? Company name. The key was company name. And the next one, what was it? Location. So each job dot location. Perfect. So now let's go here. Voila, we have it. We have everything that should be there, and it looks good, right? This looks good. This looks slick. What else? The button should be on click, it should go somewhere. Now this is where I'm going to just deviate from the basic. So button is good, but in button you have to add something like on click, take us to this page. You can do something better. You can change it to a tag, which is a link tag. So a link tag has something called as a href. Okay, and in the href you can define the link, like on clicking it where it should go. So we will do again what we have been doing. We will do each job dot, and we'll take this and we'll add job link. Let's go back to our website and see how it looks. So it still looks like a button, but on clicking this it is going to go to different urls, right? Perfect. And we have created everything. Also you can add something called as a type. So even if it's a link, it's of type button. So you can add that, so it becomes more easily understandable, and you will see the difference. If I remove this type button, look at it on the smaller screen. Okay, this breaks, but if I add this type button again, it understands and it makes it like a button, work like a button, look like a button, behave like a button. Perfect. And we have successfully created our job website, the cards on the job website. We still have the table left, we'll come to it, don't worry. We have the third session, of course, but let's fix some of the things. Number one is this image. So what can we do? So for the image to not go beyond yeah, the beyond it, so we can do something like object dash cover. Now, yep, that does help, but it just makes it bigger. So I don't think object dash cover helps. I think it's object dash contain. I'm going to like work on it and see which one. Okay, this makes it slightly better, right? MLH is completely seen, but there is some spacing that we can check about. So can we add a padding dash 2 to images and see if it helps? Yep, perfect. That sorts it. In a way, it sorts it. But padding dash 2 and margin dash 2, which one looks better? uh, okay, margin dot dash 2 did not help, definitely. Padding dash 2 seems to help. We can do a padding x dash 2 or padding x dash 1. Yep, looks better, looks definitely better. And finally, there was a question, can we take it out in a separate file? Yes, of course. Once you start adding more and more things to this one, it is going to become too big. So what we can do is we can create a separate file inside source, add a file, let's call it, now this is, I'm writing it in small, so data for jobs.js. It's a js file. Okay, it's, there's no react thing to it. And the first line you write is export, and then you just paste what we have here. So if we go to card.jsx, just cut this. Okay, cut this. Things are going to break because this variable don't no longer exists, but this is what you do. Export const data for jobs. Now let's come back to the card and we will do something like import data for jobs from dot slash data for jobs. And that works again. So why we created a different file for this? Because once we start adding more and more data, more and more data, more and more data, it's going to become too big. So separation of concerns, remember separation of concerns, that's what we did right here. Okay, and that is the end of part 2. Now there's some issue here. Is there an error? No, doesn't seem like it. It just randomly stops working, it feels like. Okay, so this is the end of our part 2 on, because we have less time left. Any questions, anyone? Of course, once you go to the REPL, you will find this code there. Okay, you'll find this whole code there, but this is what we did. We have made React components, we have added data, we have found a way to not duplicate lines of code. We did something called as a dot map, which is same as for loop, looping over the array of objects. Then we added JSX expressions, inline JSX expressions, where we did each job dot key, each job dot image, title, company name, location, and added a link. In the link, you can also do some more things, like let's say I want the link to always open on a new tab. Right now, what's happening is, oops, should not have added half stuff, because of course there's error. So if I click on this link, it opens on this tab only. I can do like open in a new tab. We can do a target equals to underscore blank. Okay, if we do this and let's come back and let's click on this, it's going to open in a new tab. So now you know how to open in a new tab, which is, I think, great. So yeah, no other questions, then we can end this call today. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mickey, for saying that this was a great session. And if there's no other pressing questions, we can end this. So thank you, everyone. See ya. Bye bye.